Chapter 5 Arrival and Departure. For the better part of the journey, the Lady Anne battles high winds, rough seas, and heavy rains. The conditions leaving little to do but hunker down and pray. One by one, they appeal to heaven. Prayers they will all reach the new world safely, and prayers for it all to be worth it in the end. For most of these passengers are uprooting themselves and their families based solely on the words of other people. For them, it is all they know of the new world. Foul weather aside, the captain, who has piloted the crossing countless times, stays the course, leading his crew and ship onward. 3 grueling months later. "Land ho!" the barrelman shouts from the crow's nest, pointing past the ship's bow. A sliver of North America's eastern coastline has just come into his view, and he shouts, "Land! Land on the horizon! Westward as she sails!" As the crew peer to the west, rumors of land spread below decks. When James Jr. catches wind of it, he grabs his tricorn and starts for the top deck. He no sooner gets it on his head when Captain Wayne holds up a hand, bringing him to an abrupt halt. James Jr. looks at his hand, bewildered. Dropping his hand, Captain Wayne explains, "You needn't go up just yet, James. Right now, the crew is preparing the ship for entering port. If we go up now, we'll just be in the way. Besides, without a glass, we won't be able to see land for a while yet." By the look on his face, that last part threw James Jr. a little off course, his befuddled expression bringing Captain Wayne to further explain. Pointing his eyes and fingers skyward, he says, "You have to remember, the first sliver of land were spotted by the barrelman, high in the crow's nest." James Jr. sighs. "Oh, right. I'm just so excited." Wayne smiles and nods. "I understand. Believe me, we all are. I'll make you a parlay. When the time is right, I'll let you know and we'll all go up together." Top deck of the Lady Anne, Atlantic Ocean, just off the coast of Massachusetts, 2 hours later, noon on a fall day, 1723. With passengers and crew all on the top deck, cheers ring out as the coastline comes into view. As the Lady Anne sails closer, William stands wide-eyed with his family, gazing with wonder at the new world. As the captain navigates into the Boston harbor, the shoreline, trees, ships, and buildings come into focus. There was so much to see. Birds, birds, and more birds. Ships, boats, people, and wagons, with horses and mules moving about to and fro. Even from the ship, one can easily see Boston is a bustling city. But William is not surprised. From the stories he heard during their voyage, opportunities in the New World abound. And from what he can see, those stories must be true. But for now, however, there is only the family to think of, so he pushes his dreams to the back of his mind. As they near the dock, the cold, salty air wafts with whiffs of smoke from wood-burning fires and the inviting aroma of freshly cooked food. He closes his eyes, breathing it all in, and his stomach growls. Uncle James pats his shoulder, startling him. "As God is me witness, I'm standing here, and I see it. But it's like a dream, and me mind can't believe it's real." William looks at him side-eyed. "Like a story?" His uncle peers back at him and smiles. "Aye. Only now we'll be telling 'em." William winks. Smiling warmly, his uncle lightly taps William's head and chest. "Aye, lad, because we owe it to them who came before us." William smiles, adding, "And those yet to come." The journey from Ireland had been exhausting, so the elation Junior and the children feel as the ship pulls into dock blinds them from the true beauty of the moment. For as they step off the Lady Anne onto that Boston pier, they are repeating what their ancestors had done before them. From the Holy Land to Spain, to Scotland, England, and Ireland. And with that step, the 4 remaining members of the Alban clan begin a new chapter in the British colonies of North America. After disembarking, the group procures several wagons and a dozen mules. With their worldly belongings carefully loaded, they venture south. Their destination, Newton Square, Pennsylvania, and a long-awaited reunion with the Hunter family. Once in Pennsylvania, Captain Wayne wastes no time establishing himself. In fact, shortly after reuniting Captain Hunter with his children, Wayne purchases a palatial 1,600-acre estate in Easttown Township, Chester County, Pennsylvania. The new estate, roughly 5 miles from Valley Forge, he dubs Waynesboro. Construction of the mansion takes more than a year, but is finally completed near the end of 1724. Later that year, Easttown will be renamed Paoli. Captain Hunter's beautiful brick mansion, which still stands near Paoli, Pennsylvania to this day, is now a historical site and is open to the public. Meanwhile, James Jr. and the children only stay at the Hunter estate a short while. Sadly, although they are family, the Albans and Hunters really do not know one another. As such, feeling like a stranger in a stranger's house in a strange land, James Jr. chooses a path of his own. The spring following their arrival, he and the children move 24 miles west to Marlborough Township. Finally free and on their own, they settle in and begin making new lives for themselves. It has been said William Penn, who originally established Marlborough Township, named it after the town of Marlborough in Wiltshire, England, although it has also been argued that the town was actually named after the first Duke of Marlborough, who gained acclaim for his military exploits in 1706 with his victory at Ramillies. The very same General Churchill Captains Hunter and Wayne served under during the Williamite War. Once in Marlborough, James Jr. continues his work as a professional tailor, and with help from Captains Wayne and Hunter, quickly establishes a reputation for providing the finest of garments for men and women alike. Soon thereafter, he becomes a yeoman and purchases a parcel of Pennsylvania land. On the west side of Marlborough, among the green rolling hemlock, red cedar, and pine-covered hills, he and his nephews build a small home. William, now 23, still struggles with the loss of his family, and while he mourns his parents and brother, his deepest grief remains the absence of Senior, and from time to time, memories of the blaze haunt him. Visions so real of helplessly staring at the flames, his uncle holding him there on the cold, hard ground, the smell of smoke, and the flames dancing in his eyes. Looking back, William knows his uncle saved him from himself that day, but still, he fights to get past it. It has been a little over a year since the family's arrival to the colonies, and while his uncle has provided a wonderful home, William's mind will not let him find peace. He thought leaving Newton Square and moving out on their own would make things better. It did not. Nevertheless, William remains faithful to the clan and continues to live in Marlborough with his family for the next 4 years, during which he becomes increasingly restless. Marlborough, Pennsylvania Colony, Fall, 1728. Until now, William's devotion to family is all that has kept him in Pennsylvania. After having their loved ones ripped from their lives, he could not bring himself to fracture his family any further for the selfish pursuit of his own dreams. But after 5 long years, he is struggling to contain his aching desire to explore. Not simply this brave new world that surrounds him, but to explore who he is as a man, like Senior did when he arrived in Ireland. His mind reels, and with each passing day he becomes increasingly anxious. Recognizing his nephew's restlessness, James Jr. pulls William aside for a little heart-to-heart one lazy Sunday morning after church. As the service adjourns, he places an arm across William's shoulders, asking, "Might we talk?" With a glance, William replies, "Of course." As they exit the church, Uncle James calls to his 19-year-old nephew in the distance. "James, do me a kindness and escort your sister home. Your brother and I will be along shortly." James III nods and waves. Then he calls to his 16-year-old sister. "Come along, Lizzie." Lizzie waves at William and her uncle, then skips over to join her brother for the short walk home. Seeing the teens are headed home, Uncle James returns his focus to William. "All right, lad. Out with it." William stops and looks at him puzzled. Taking a step forward, he places a hand on William's shoulder and says, "Don't be looking at me like that, like you dinna know what I mean. I've been watching you for months now, and clearly there's something eating at you." Irritated, William yanks his shoulder away and with clenched fist snaps, "It's nothing. I'm fine." Grabbing William's shoulder again, his uncle spins him around, firing back. "Find me Scottish Irish arse. Can you hear yourself? You nearly bit me head off." William stares at the ground in frustration. Unclenching his fists, his eyes well with tears. With a tone of concern, his uncle asks, "What's eating at you, lad? What's happened to you? Because you're no the William I once knew, happy and confident. And dare I say, even a little cocky, Mr. Warrior Hunter. In fact, Senior wouldn't even recognize the man standing before me. Now, I know I ain't your da, nor Senior, but I'm here for you, and I want to help. But I canna help if you dinna talk to me." Looking up from the ground, William wipes his face, sniffling, "Forgive me, you dinna deserve that." Patting his clearly dismayed nephew on his back, Junior says, "It's all right. Through thick and thin, I'm here for you." William gives him a nod, and his uncle hugs him with two hearty, two-handed slaps on his back. Then, with a gesture towards home, he starts slowly walking. Following alongside, William quietly gathers his thoughts. As he struggles to work through it all, his defenses soften and he begins to open up. I don't know. It's just, I'm really not sure what's ailing me. So many things bouncing around in me head. It's got me frustrated. Forgive me, Uncle. I didn't mean to be so gruff." "It's all right, lad. I were young once too, you know. Is it a girl?" "Lord, I hope not, 'cause I'll be of little help to you. I've no luck with women, save one lovely lass. But that, I'm afraid, is a story for another day. There were your ma, though. She were a true friend from the day your da introduced her to the family. We always got along." A smile creeps across William's face. "Aye, she were a good one. Had a heart of gold, she did. But no, 'tis no a girl." Then with a half chuckle he adds, "Lord knows I've enough splashing around in me head. The last thing I need is some girl muddying the waters." Responding quickly, his uncle blurts, "So, there is something troubling you." Shaking his head, William continues to walk. His uncle chases him down and cuts him off. Hands raised in surrender, James Jr. declares, "Look, I canna help you if you don't come out with it, and I'm too bloody old for games. So, out with it, here and now." Thumbing a strand of long brown hair behind his ear, William takes a moment to think. Then, with a deep breath, he says, "First, know I'm forever grateful. After everything we've been through, and all you done for us, for me, for our family, we never would have survived it without you. And I can tell you this, you've done Senior and me da proud." Choking up, Junior breathes, "Thank you, William. That means a lot." William continues, "It's just that." "Just that what?" William kicks at the dirt and rolls his head back. That I don't know who I am, or what me purpose is. I'm a man. I need to find me own way, me own purpose. Thrusting a finger in the air, his uncle exclaims, Well then, perhaps you need to go and find it. Those words were like a slap to the back of William's head, and a brief silence ensues. Stepping forward, Junior locks eyes with him and ever so bluntly states, And trust me when I say, if you no found it here by now, you never will. William's head is spinning and he gasps, Eh? Aye, that which you seek. Placing a hand on William's shoulder, he adds, William, perhaps it's time you have a look about. Spread your wings and see what's out there. See your path and write your own story, like Senior when he left England. William stares at him with a furrowed brow, listening intently and pondering his words. His eyes softly drowning in thought, he rolls his head back and gazes at the clouds. This is a step he has longed to take, and now he is standing at the threshold, his uncle having swung the door wide open for him. It is a big step, but one he knows he must take. He hears Senior telling the story about leaving the Shire, his words encouraging him to take the leap. He is fixating on a slowly drifting cloud when his uncle interrupts his daze. Listen, we're blood, and I love you. But I love you enough to let you go. I'm setting you free, William. Like the birds in winter, 'tis time for you to fly. Now I don't know where you need to go, but I'm confident you'll know when you get there. Leaning in, he gives his nephew a tight fatherly embrace, whispering, You know, you're the son I never had, and I love you, and I believe in you. So go out there and find your purpose, whatever that may be. But above all, find yourself. Find that clever, confident, smiling lad Senior knew you to be. And when you do, you'll find your happiness. With his hand on William's shoulder, he steps back, adding, And know this, whatever you do, I'll always be proud of you. With tears now rolling down his cheeks, William utters but 10 simple words. I love you too, and I will make you proud. Releasing William from his grip, his uncle replies, I know you will. Then, with a hearty pat on his back, he says, What say we head home and tell the others? When they arrive home, William heads straight to his room and starts packing his meager belongings. When his siblings see him packing, they become unsettled. Seeing their expressions, Uncle James quickly ushers Lizzie and James III outside. I can tell by the looks on your faces you're both a bit confused and worried, but trust me, you needn't be. Everything is fine. Seeing they are not convinced, he continues. Listen, your brother is a 28-year-old man, and he's simply decided it's time to spread his wings and leave the nest. James III blurts. Well, it's about bloody time. Lizzie gasps. He's leaving? But why? Wrapping her in a hug, Uncle James replies. Because he's ready to make a life for himself now. He needs to see what this world has in store for him. He needs to find his place and purpose. Lizzie sobs. But where will he go? What will he do? Honestly, I haven't the foggiest notion. For that matter, neither does he. But I can tell you this. He'll know it when he knows it, whatever or wherever it be. Lizzie sniffles. But I'm scared for him. Giving his niece a comforting squeeze, Junior whispers. Don't go worrying, you precious little heart, Lizzie. Your brother'll be fine. But how do you know? With another squeeze, he says, Because, lassie, he's in Holborn. James III turns to head back into the house. His uncle barks. Where are you off to? To see if he needs any help, he says, trotting away. Having lost so much already in her short life, the thought of losing her brother is simply more than Lizzie can bear. Overwhelmed, she runs off into the woods crying. Thinking it best to give her some time, James Jr. watches her disappear into the trees. When she is out of sight, he re-enters the house to find James the Third sitting on a chair watching his brother. Some helper you turned out to be. He said he didn't need any help. Then he looks at the front door and asks, "Where's Lizzie?" "She'll be fine. She just needs some time." With a puckered face he nods. "Oh." Shaking his head at his naive young nephew, Uncle James turns his attention back to William. "So, will you be taking a horse?" William stops packing and looks blindly out the window towards the barn. Since the horses are his uncle's, and he has no money to care for one anyway, he replies, "Thanks, Uncle James. That's a generous offer, but no." With a swipe of his chin, he sighs, "But why?" "Well, I figure I don't even know where I'm going, so I may as well get there on foot. That way I'll have plenty of time to think about it along the way." His uncle gives him a judicious, squint-eyed stare, asking, "'Tis a long way to wherever you go from here, lad. Are you sure?" William laughs. "As a matter of fact, I'm not." His brother and uncle turn to him bewildered. "Because I'm fairly certain I'll be regretting it after a few days of walking, so dinna worry, I'll probably be back by supper next Sunday." James the Third laughs, and his uncle chides, "If you're coming Sunday, you best be home before church." The three of them break into a laugh. Then it occurs to young James there are only 2 horses, and he groans, "Sorry, brother, but if you'll no be taking her now, she's mine to take when I go." James Jr. steps between William and his rambunctious brother with a hand to James the Third's chest, barking, "No so fast, young'un. You're no going anywhere." Motioning to them, Junior pulls his nephews in for a hug. As they embrace, no words are spoken, save the quiet exchange of pats on each other's backs. Reminiscent of times shared at Bailey House, the 4 Albans share their last evening together, gathered around the kitchen table. Their evening spent sharing memories of loved ones and times shared together on the family farm. And after all they have been through, James Jr. is feeling like a proud papa. For as the evening unfolds, his heart is warmed by story after story told by each of the children, their animation and funny faces reminding him of his father. Just like William said on the Lady Anne, it was almost like he were there. And when William told one, that was especially true, at one point bringing his uncle to laugh while reminiscing through tears of joy. It was like watching a younger version of his father telling a story. Smiling warmly, he thinks to himself, in many ways, Senior is here. Ironically, William sighs, "I have to confess, this reminds me of sitting by the fire with Senior." "Aye, good times, and so many stories," his brother replies. Still smiling, James Jr. comments, "Aye, those were good times." Slowly nodding, he asks, "So, tell me then, what were your favorite?" "Mine's the one about the day he proposed to Grandma Ann. So romantic," Lizzie says fondly. With a half smile, James Jr. slowly nods, sighing, "Aye, lassie, like a fairy tale set beside the waters of the River Derwent." Gazing into oblivion, they all nod and sigh. Then James the Third blurts, "I always liked the one he told about teaching Grandma Ann how to ride." "Aye, now there's a good one. You know, she were only 8-year-old, James Jr. billows. William snorts, "Not so good for her, though. She fell off the horse and broke her leg." His uncle chuckles, "That she did, lad. And Senior had to carry all the way home to her folks." William laughs, "I'll never forget it. He said he were white as a ghost when he told her da. He thought old Bartholomew was going to kill him right there on the spot." "Oh, I've heard stories about that one. An evil man he were, from what I gather," James Jr. says through squinted eyes. Shaking his head, he laughs, "And to think, Senior named his dog after him. One thing's for sure, me da had a wicked sense of humor. And a wicked sense of protecting Grandma from that nasty bastard," William barks. "Isn't that why they ran away?" Lizzie asks. "Aye, that and the baby," her uncle replies. She sighs. So romantic. Sounds more like fear to me, William laughs. Damn straight. Senior was scared of the old bastard. They both were, James Jr. declares. Just then, a loud pop explodes from the crackling fire. Silently, they all turn to the fireplace, stone-faced. Breaking the silence, Uncle James says, But what a fine adventure they shared, and what a grand life they lived. And look, we're all here because of it. Lifting his cup in the air, William cheers. To James Sr. and Anne Margaret Alban, two fearless and determined adventurers. And to all who came before us, his uncle adds. With outstretched arms, they bring their cups together and cheer. To them! Standing to his feet, James Jr. keeps his cup held high and says, And to me nephew, William Bruce Alban, may ye be just as fearless and determined as they. The children stand, bringing their cups together once again, and William looks them all in the eyes and says, May God's grace shine on us all. There was laughter and there were tears, but in the end, a memorable evening is shared by all, one they will carry in their hearts the rest of their days. The following morning, the family gathers on the front porch. With a few tears and well-timed chuckles, they share their last hugs and say their goodbyes. Like a man, James III holds out a hand and with a firm shake says, Good luck, brother. Shaking firmly, William says, And you as well. As he turns to Elizabeth, she leaps into him, wrapping him in her arms, weeping. In time, I'll forgive you for breaking me heart, but for now, I'm wishing you all the luck in the world. Squeezing her tightly, he whispers, I love you too, Lizzie, and dinna tell the others, but I miss you already. Lizzie lets out a little laugh in between sobs as she steps away crying. When he turns to his uncle, he is standing there with arms spread wide. He and William collide in a chest-to-chest bear hug, slapping each other's backs and breathing through their tears, trying not to cry. When they finally pull away, James Jr. says, Oh, I almost forgot. I have something for you. All eyes fix on their uncle as he pulls something from behind his back, handing it to William. William hesitates. But, forcing it into his hand, his uncle says, But nothing. It were Senior's. He'd want you to have it. It's the one his da gave him when he left the Shire. You mean? Aye, lad, the very same, his uncle says with a proud nod. William takes the knife and throws his arms around his uncle, whispering, Thank you. I shall cherish it always. With his meager belongings tucked into a bedroll across his back, he throws his loved ones a heartfelt wave, then turns and walks away. As their beloved William sets off for parts unknown, the three remaining Albans watch from the front porch. Lizzie starts to weep, and her uncle wraps her in a comforting embrace, whispering, Don't worry, Lizzie. He'll be fine. And given time, so will you. Quietly, they watch until he is out of sight. 5 years after William's departure, Elizabeth will meet and marry Robert Evans, a man 9 years her senior. After their wedding, they settle into Stafford, New Hampshire, from where Mr. Evans and his family have hailed for generations. There, they will raise twin sons, Thomas and John. With tailoring fine apparel being his one true love, Uncle James never marries. He does, however, with much satisfaction and joy, live the remainder of his years in Marlborough Township, Pennsylvania. Meanwhile, James III will eventually seek the hand of the lovely Miss Jane Edge, a Quaker woman whose father, John Edge, denies consent for their union. Exercising his own Bartholomew, James III and Jane get married anyway, eloping just as his grandparents had done in 1664. After their nuptials, they will live with Uncle James Jr. in Marlborough Township. As it turns out, his uncle was right. He wasn't going anywhere. On May 27, 1729, just 5 years after James Jr. and R.J.'s children arrived in Marlborough Township, it is carved into two separate towns, becoming East and West Marlborough Townships. Which brings us back to William Bruce.